This is a video going to be, this video, excuse me, is going to be about stock prices, about financial ratios like the PE ratio. And it's mainly going to be about how to get data from finance.yahoo.com because some very nice person sent me a reply to a video and said, look, you can still do this. And of course, I was a little intimidated, and I appreciate that immensely. Now, just to introduce things a tiny bit, you know, of course, one of the things I'm going to show you is when this is an ancient file. This is the first time, probably 10 years ago, I started to do this stuff. Okay, and I don't even know where I put the get data. I put this get data in, and you know, we have the stock prices and the scatter plots and all of that stuff, and then we have a little thing that works through the dates, which are a very big deal if you're really working with different stock prices in different places. Excuse me for the noise. Okay, if you press get data with the old one, it doesn't work. Okay, uh-oh. And that was what was making me cry. And then the other thing I tried to put in this Google Drive, I'm obsessed about it, I haven't done any videos really on it, is the cost of capital. I assume you're like me and you sit every night and you think, oh, the stock prices go up so much, and you know, there's this Trump effect or something like this, and do the stock prices, when they go up, is it because there's some massive new technologies? Is it because everybody uses Instagram or Twitter or something like that? Why? What has made in the last few years stock prices increase by whatever 40%? What economic activity, while the whole economy has increased by about a few percent? Why is this happening? And you know, so if I have this beer company comparison, and what I do on these ones, I'm just introducing, this is not really stock prices. I've shown you this a long time ago, but I assume nobody ever has used this. Okay, and here's why. So I try to make these things where we read from all sorts of the menu sheet. You read from all sorts of different places, mainly finance.yahoo.com, to first get the stock prices, and then you go to Market Watch and get all the financial statements. And you don't have to use Bloomberg because you can do this little comparison, use with the true falses that I showed you a lot on. Kind of, I should maybe put a little checkbox on these. And then you can go over through time. I mean, if you want to go through time, you can look at all sorts of financial ratios, and you can do this all with just getting downloading the data from the internet, or scraping the web, or whatever we call this. And this PE ratio, you know, here. Oh, see, I didn't finish it here or something. I don't know. But you get numbers that are all over the place. And why aren't these numbers all the same for different companies in the industry? And then you can do the same for the EV to EBITDA ratio analysis. And then you get kind of more interesting, and you can look at the market to book ratio versus the return on equity, and make a little regression analysis and back into the cost of capital, which is really one of my obsessions in my life. You can also go to the value driver formula for equity and do the same sort of thing. For that one, it was a little bit more complicated. What you do with the stable ratios is a big deal in terms of backing into the cost of capital. So that was that one. And then, so somebody gave me this file, or when I looked at that thing I received, it was so interesting because I'm going to go back to chapter 1, excuse me for that. And in chapter 1, then I go to the folder for stock prices. Okay, and in that folder for stock prices, Now, oops, that's not what I wanted. I have this thing called Google Finance Read, and just a minute. Let's see if I hope this is the one. I'm a little embarrassed right now, and that's not it. Just I'm gonna have to pause for just a minute. Okay, it wasn't so bad. It was right here. I just put the wrong one. Okay, and here's what, it's a company called signalsolver.com, so I better absolutely give them credit for this. And the biggest thing I give them credit for is if you right-click and go to the macro, they didn't put some stupid little private thing or anything, and they gave this file, this thing, and it says get historic data, and they do all of this stuff to kind of change and make a URL. Okay, and they even change the color of the box. And then they have this, let me see, this function that goes and takes the URL and, I guess it's continuing to make the URL. It goes to a web request, and then it, what does it do here? It does a lot of stuff, and it's a long function. And there we are. And then there's another one called, or is this the one called emulate URL? Just a minute. Yes, this is the one called emulate URL. And I thought this, and I go, oh no, I love what it does. Because if I wanted to just go up here and put the GSPC in here, now you just press get data, and it just goes and gets the data. How wonderful is that? For some reason, I don't have the right end date here. I could put equal today, I guess. Whoops, if I spelled it right. All right. So, it was just too loud. I hope I didn't break your eardrums. Okay. How do we do this? And then I have done one other thing. I have decided to get a little philosophical about something. And I have, since this stock prices, and there are really two objectives here. If you want to read a lot of stock prices and do some analysis, I'm putting a file together. But if you just want to see how to do this, I put a new page into the website, and I said, okay, well, the first thing is, let's not make a video. Let's say you want to just download something from, download something from the internet and get it into Excel. Well, I say use workbooks.open whenever you can, and whenever you're downloading, just from a web page, not from a file, like it says download when you're at a web page and it says download a file. Well, if just for a web page, use the workbooks.open, then try to even use it from a file that you're downloading. But if you can't, use this thing. And it's not nearly as complicated as that stuff looks. Now, I said, okay, this is a basic thing you do. You put you go to the website, record the URL, adjust the URL, put an index function together, use the workbooks.open, modify, copy and paste it from one sheet back to your sheet, and then do a little bit of modification that's really not that difficult, and then use the indirect command to put everything together. So I'm trying to do more and more of this in trying to have a little description instead of these videos, because if I ever have to remember what to do, I don't want to go and listen to some horrible video again. Then you can so then I said, okay, well, let's do a comprehensive analysis, and I'm trying to make this video before no, let's do a comprehensive analysis, and that's in this comprehensive analysis, this is going to be my file. Now, that one, that's in the Google Drive, and I've got 4 versions. This is 13 megabytes. My original suggestion was get daily prices. Get as much data as you possibly can, and then do match index. And why does it say update all the time? And so I said, okay, well, what we'll do is we're going to do all of these things. We can read from finance.yahoo.com, and then it puts this in. But maybe I don't want to read from finance.yahoo.com. Then and I don't want to read the Google ones. I only want to read the commodity prices. Then it gives me all the commodity prices. Or then I hope I've just taken everything away. I'm going to go put the finance.yahoo.com, and here is the big deal. Each one of these uses a different technique to go and get the data. Well, not every single one. And then once you put this in, you get this really big list in it. You get a big list, and this list then of all this stuff, just a minute, I have to calculate. And you get this really big list, and then you can take this list and you can do all sorts of analysis on comparing stocks to commodities, looking at comparing a stock to different indices, and comparing them to commodity prices. And then, so for example, this compares the Nikkei in Japan to the U.S. to the NASDAQ, and you can click off of this, and then you've got to calculate. Now I'm working on this right now because it's a little bit slow because I took daily data, and then you can convert it to monthly data. I think it might have been better to take weekly data. Okay, so now I'm comparing it to the Australian index, and then you can compare it to all of the get my words out. You can compare it to the commodity prices and everything else. Okay, so here's the oil prices and all that, and we can click on that, and you can get data on all sorts of, because some international stocks are only on Google, some only on Yahoo, and some indices are different. Of course, Yahoo has the adjusted closing price, where they adjust for dividends and stock splits, so you can get the total shareholder return, which is the obsession of that McKinsey book. Now, for each one of these, you can make a single web request or read all. Now, for the Google thing, so if you look at how this worked, you press edit, and then that long file that I showed you comes down to this. It comes down to this. It's not that much harder than workbooks.open. It's a little bit harder. I put it on manual first, and then we need to find a cookie. And this cookie is some kind of header you have to put in the web request. I am not a real big expert at this. This is how I should have introduced the video. And then you need the URL. Now, in the URL, I think you should do all the adjustments to the URL. I'm going to have to repeat this, or I'll put one of those little thingies on the little messages. Do all the URL stuff in Excel. Why put it in the VBA code so you can look really smart? Those people were so nice. It's wonderful who gave me this. And then what you do is you get this really long text thing where it says you can say, well, do I want to wait 1 second, I think, for a response or something. And this web request.response text, this split is just an Excel function where it just says find the line feed and then split this really long thing into different pieces of text. And then the hard part is, well, not really the hard part. Then you put all of this stuff into a array variable, and then you just plop it into a range name. You need a matrix. You kind of need a row and a column, and that makes it much, much, much faster. And that's almost like the workbooks.open. And now if you want to see how this works, I put in the so this is, I'm going crazy with this web scraping stuff, and I think I'm going to make a separate part on this. This will be part one of the video. If you go to this thing called databases and data retrieval now, there is something called using WEBREQUEST. Okay, so I thought, this was a revelation for me. The fact that somebody showed me how to do it from a video was just one of the most amazing things that, for me. Now, if you, I put some other examples. I tried to go to the internet. Now, if you do this classic thing, so I just put some different tests on here. Okay, so this is using WEBREQUEST. And when I put these different tests on, let me see, one of them was the, where is, here, this St. Louis Fed thing, which I think is just another really remarkable website. If I want to go and get whatever this is, I don't know, you get these little things when you go to Fred database on different countries. Remember, I showed you that, I hope you remember that I'm not going to open it. I'm so tempted to. The one that goes through the GDP per capita for all those countries. I just think it's amazing the data you can get. Now you can, if you do this, you can go to workbooks.open. So take that, and it puts it in a different sheet. And it does it all fine. I'm closing that. But if you go to this test web request, no header, so it just takes the same URL. Just a minute. The workbooks.open, all that does is say, okay, we have one line. That has to be the favorite way to do it, but it's not on the internet ever. If you want to do it with this method, it has this stuff in it. It's almost exactly, maybe it's exactly what I showed. No, it's not exactly, I think, because I don't need this cookie thing here, so I should have taken that out. And what you're really doing is you're having you need this dimension variable, and then I believe you need to do this, set the variable, set this thing you called, okay, you need to have the set command. Maybe I'll try it without, and then you have to go and get the data. And when you get the data, you have to give it a URL, and this URL is the URL that I just showed you on the other sheet. And then this is the same kind of trick. You take that stuff you output, put it in a matrix, and make a range name and get it out. So if you did the same thing here, it would give you the same answer. Okay? I think for me, that was a really big deal. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I just tested something out while I was showing you. See, for me, this stuff is helpful. Okay, you can name this input URL and put the input URL here. So you have to have an open, send, wait, and then you get this back. Okay, but you have to, I thought maybe we don't really need this. Maybe we don't need this whole thing up here. I mean, this set request, because we've already defined it up here. Why would you need to do it twice? I was wrong. You need to get that. Okay, But still the good news is you can get the data. Okay, and again, what I'm trying to do is boil this whole interesting thing down into just as small a VBA as possible. Now, let's go back to the of course, by the way, if you now let's just do something else. If you want to get this finance.yahoo.com and get the statistics on GE, now I thought this wasn't working a few weeks ago. This is very good because this means we can still do the getting some of the PE ratios. Now, if you would do this one, it's like what horrible English is that? If you would use this one, how's that? Then when I try the web request, it gives me something that apparently some people can really understand. My son was trying to explain these things to me. I have no idea what it does. Sorry. Okay. It gives you kind of, I don't know, where they're putting the tables and where they're putting the headers and all that. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's useful to you. But if you use the workbooks.open method with this one, it goes and it just puts that into a messy website. And of course, you know the story after that. After that, you get this messy website. But the good news is it's all in the same column. And you've got some very patriotic man with some, there seems to be a lot of American flags here. You can just copy this and edit pay special as text, as values, sorry, and then you can start doing all your match and index, and you've got all the data. Okay, so in that case, it was the workbooks.open that really was the right thing to do. Now, if you take this, now here this is going to be the subject of a second video. Okay, if we take this one, let me just kind of bring this one here. This is the finance.yahoo.com. Now, there are two reasons that this has got the data for GE. This is called a Unix date. And this Unix date has it's in seconds. It's in seconds, not in days and months and years, so no decimal. And this, so that you go from this date to this date, and you can still put an interval of 1 day, and then you've got this crumb stuff. That's kind of the hard part. So the rest of this is kind of easy. We can separate the URL and do whatever we want. Now, but here's the problem. The problem is that if I go to this web request like this one, it gives me some junk. It said unauthorized, okay, and it doesn't work. So I put this one in. This is a little bit different. You click on this one, and it still does the same thing. But if you initialize, you have to do this little initialize, and it finds this thing called a cookie and a crumb, and then you take that same thing and you put it over here, and then you say, okay, now let's do this test web request, and then we get all the data. Now this didn't have the long data, and then once you have this, of course, you're finished. You can do anything with it. That's the thing you need, okay? Now, so I just have to kind of explain what this initialize thing does. And that's, again, from that long program these people at signal.com gave me or something. You just have to run this once. And this is something where it goes through a loop. This is going to try 5 times, and you maybe want to test it more, and you get some, it could be anything. They put rubbish here, which is kind of cool. And then they send a request, they wait for a response, and at the end of the day, I put, on the status bar, you're trying to get a cookie and a crumb, whatever those are, the cookie thing, and then you're finished. And then, so all I could do is really copy this. I'm going through it fast because obviously I didn't understand everything about it. I just kind of borrowed it from those very good people. And then this time you have to put this cookie. So this comes from I put it a range name. And this time and this cookie has to be on the header. Okay. I'm glad this is a video so you can ask me about why I did this or where it comes from, because I would say I have not the foggiest idea. But those things are cookies and a crumb, so you need this one for the header, and this crumb is put at the end of the thing, that ZM whatever it is. And again, you can test this out, and it all works. So we're all the way back, really, and it doesn't even take very long. So that's the new stuff. I'm going to make a second video about really how to implement this. But the big deal is you can find this. I think I'm going to put this using WEBREQUEST. I'm going to put this right now on the... Yeah, I'm going to put this in 2 places, because even though it's a simple little thing, I will, and sometimes I'm a little late in posting these, I'm sorry about that, but this will be either in this one that I split up. So this one right now has getting all the data from the internet, but mainly interest rate, exchange rates, commodity prices, and all that, okay? And I'll put this somewhere down here using the WEBREQUEST, okay? And then I'm also... Well, I'll put the file in this one that says stock prices and data retrieval. Again, I'm going to start with this. I started with a simple example, and then I'm going to go through step by step on how to get the more comprehensive example finished. And that's enough for this video, I think.